All right. Let's see what we got to talk about. Let's start with a prayer. Nick, do you want to open a prayer?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, so thankful and grateful for today and many blessings that has given us. And we're so thankful for the things that we're able to do and accomplish it. We're so thankful for this opportunity to meet as a group and talk about our case study. And please help us with that spirit that we may be able to learn the things that we need to learn from it and to help each other out. Father, we love you very much and we see these things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay. So question 3 says review the summary data from the negotiation results. Which team had the highest pre-money value? Which had the lowest? Where did your team fall? Choose teams that showed extremes in performance and ask what happened that led to the results. So let's see.
What does it mean by team?
I don't know. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I was like, well, which team?
Let me see if I can find some sort of.
Which team had the highest pre-value?
Choose teams that showed extremes in performance. What is it talking about?
Yeah, I didn't see anything about like making teams or picking teams or anything like that.
I mean, it was just like a straight case study, and there was like a financial statements of the company and stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, let's see if I can find. Okay. Let's just kind of move on from that. Because it might just be talking about like which.
Is it talking about the VC, like which VC had? I don't know.
I mean, that's all I can really think of is like which VC are you kind of backing and why?
Where did your team fall? Like, I still don't understand it when it's VC. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
I mean, I thought this was just a normal case study analysis. Like, I don't ever remember there being anything about a team. Unless two people want to pretend to be for one. I don't know.
Let me read if there was like any weird announcements that we didn't read or anything.
Okay.
I read through the instructor. He just said this week you will be studying the MuMate case. In your teams, make sure you consider the two sides, MuMate and DuPage.
So we were supposed to read that. So let's do that.
Yeah, I already read it. It doesn't say anything about forming teams, really. At least that I saw. It talks about two different VC firms that provided their term sheets. Like it didn't really ask you to pick one or another. It just kind of showed like, look, before she got an offer from DuPage, she already got term sheets from two VCs. And then it lists those out. So yeah, I read through that section as well, and it pretty much just gives you two different VC term sheets. Did you guys read that at all?
Yeah, I'm reading over it. It's pretty. I mean, it just kind of just describes the different deals.
Yeah.
That were offered.
So I think we'll just move on to the next ones. We'll probably come back to that toward the end. All right, so it looks like it's kind of referring to if we like picked a side, whether we were on the DPV side or the MuMate side. So let's like put on our due page thinking caps. It says, what were your goals for this negotiation?
For due page.
So if we were thinking about this in terms of like, if we were the VC, what are we trying to get out of this?
You want more equity in the company.
Yeah.
And then so basically you want a lower valuation.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're going to want to keep equity in that company. And
they're also going to want to they're going to want as much control as they can get, just because a lot of times with when you have venture capital, they'll put someone in the board, and then they would be acting in best interest for the venture capital, but also a lot of times they'll put someone in there that's really trusted and that's really good, and a lot of the times he has a little bit, or he or she has a little bit more expertise in growing those type of businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what they want to do. Like in their term sheet, that's what they said, that they would want somebody to serve as a DPV's representative in the board.
In the board, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's usually, like you said, VC firms will usually add at least one person to the board. One of the questions it asks is, what do you think the valuation goal should be if they were going to get the deal for this company? Because looking at the other
question?
This is question 4.
Okay.
Like the bullet points there. So the valuation provided by the other funds, so the Astoria and the Prosper funds. So Astoria valued it at 10 million post Series A. Prosper Fund valued it at 7.5 million post. So Astoria definitely thought the company was a lot more valuable. So they thought it was 7.5 million in value before doing the investment. And Prosper only thought it was 4.5 million.
So when it says, so in the Prosper Fund, when it says VC gets 40%, would that be 40% of the company after it's post or pre?
That's post.
So it'd be post.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, their 40% would be the money raised.
Yeah, because they're putting in 3 million into a company that's currently worth 4.5. So that's their claim on that portion of the company.
Uh-huh.
So are they claiming 3 million of you said 4.5?
Yeah.
The VCs are.
Well, they're not claiming it. They're like adding it to the company.
Adding into
right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're adding more than half of the revenues.
Not really the revenue. They're valuing the current company at 4.5 million, and then they're going to raise 3 million worth of funding, so which that brings the total value to 7.5 million. So they're getting, like it says, 40% value of the company. So they would have 40% equity, which seems like quite a bit.
It does seem like a bit too much for something like that.
So this one thing too is like, because I didn't read that second page that we just found.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But on the bottom of the case, it has like at the very, very, very bottom, it has other acquisitions that were made recently.
Yeah.
Like none of them were that low.
Yeah, none of them comparatively have been that low, but it also looks like the sales values for all these companies that sold, like MuMate is a lot smaller because they're only hitting like what 8 million in sales right now.
Yeah.
The revenue. Wait, where was the revenue for the last year? I thought it was 50 million.
I think that was their projected. They're projected at 2015.
Oh, it's 2011 right now, right?
Yeah. So like
It
it's
would have
I
been
think they're-
978.
yeah, I think they're like kind of heading into 2012. So maybe by the time they finish this funding, I mean, 8 million looks like their 2012 projected revenue. So they're not compared to all these other companies that went through.
Oh, they're pretty small.
They're pretty darn small.
All right. Okay, that makes more sense. I was just wondering. I was like, dang, they're way lower. So, did you guys find like a way to value that company?
So I'm trying to think of one right now because it says like, so if you look at that same chart where it shows all those companies that went through investment things, the value to LTM sales. I don't know if this will give us information, but like the mean is 1.4. So let's say if they're making 8 million.
So that's what I did. I just put the revenue, and then it would be like that's a multiplier, so 1.4, and that will kind of give you the valuation, like a ballpark.
So like 11.2 million in revenue, which I don't know if that.
What year are you looking at?
I just went with the 8 million for 2012.
Okay.
Okay.
8.345 million.
So that's the projected revenue, right? 2012.
Yeah, I think they're kind of partway into 2012. I think at the beginning of the case study it mentions that they've already made 3 million, and they're tracking to 8 million. Let me see if I can find that, if that's accurate. Maybe I made that up.
So using that multiplier of 1.4, that it puts a value using the revenue, it puts a value at about 11.6 million.
Yeah.
And that would be like right in the middle, more or less. And then I also did the EBIT one.
Yeah.
It says the medium was 27.5 multiplier, and then their EBIT for 2012 would be 104. So it's not even. I don't even think that's a million yet. So that has their valuation way lower.
27.5.
So it's like 2.8 million using that one.
Yeah.
Mind you, their EBIT is like it keeps growing, so that might not be a good number to use. I think revenue will probably be more, because companies when they grow, they're going to get better at cutting their costs.
Yeah.
So I mean, 11.8 million is, I think, would be fair.
Yeah, I think somewhere in the like 10 million range is probably pretty close to what their value is right now.
Yeah.
With a lot of potential to grow, obviously, because if in 2015 they really do achieve that 50 million in sales, that'll be pretty good growth.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
And plus, that they're having a lot of success in reaching people. In fact, aren't they selling out of certain locations? And I mean, there's a pop star who wants them. There's
Yeah, they haven't really gotten to where they're underproducing. They're always underproducing. There's the demand's there, so that's good.
Yeah, the main reason they're trying to get this $2.5 million of funding is so that they can expand nationally,
Yeah.
because they're kind of stuck on the West Coast right now. But they have all these offers from like national companies that would love to stock their product. They just don't really have the money to quite go national yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So
There's definitely a lot of potential.
yeah. So let's see if we were DPV, what would do you want to pick as like a value for the company? Would 10 million be a pretty good valuation?
So they'll probably want to put it lower.
Yeah.
Just 'cause they'll be. I mean, they're going to be. It's in their best interest to have it lower.
Yeah. So let's.
Yeah.
What about 8.5?
So
Yeah,
let's see. Yeah. If they put it at 8.5 and they invest 2.5 million, so they're getting about 30% equity in the company, which is pretty good.
That's
So the DVP getting 30%.
Yeah, if they're putting in 2.5 million with the 8.5 pre value, that's about 30%. So the next kind of target they're asking for is the rate of return of Y. So I don't know what Y is, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel
So
like
that
we're
would be like,
missing information.
what's their end goal? So they're basically investing $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Does it have where they wanted to? Because I know it talked about like typical returns for that company, and they were pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember if it said anywhere where like the goal would be to hit?
Let me see.
Or would we just use like the growth that they projected?
So let's see. It says it's just kind of background on DPV. It says they've achieved top quartile investment performance since 1988. Its 6 funds have averaged a 25% pre-tax IRR. So they're averaging about 25% rate of return.
Okay.
So I would shoot for like. So and it also says that its equity stake averaged 20 to 30%. So if let's say they get 30% equity in the company, and then they go for their average 25% rate of return, seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, 25 is good.
Yeah, agree.
All right. The next question from DPV again. How many board seats are you going to have? We already kind of talked about you're going to have one of your own fund guys in there. So they'll have a guy.
I mean, they want at least one, but if not, I mean, more the merrier in their situation. They want as many as they can get.
Yeah. So let's see. So these other funds, so this Prosper Fund, they offered 4 members on the board, both the founders, one VC guy, and then an outsider suggested by MuMate and acceptable to Prosper. So in both of these, Astoria and Prosper, it looks like they only have one VC person on the board.
Yeah. The next one says, how important is this deal to DPV? Once in a lifetime, pretty good or pass. I think it's just like a normal deal to them. But then again, like the projected growth, if it does really grow it like it says it will, as far as like their revenue,
yeah,
pretty good money. Like definitely more than 25%.
I think it's kind of the middle of the ground. Like it's not a guaranteed like we need this kind of deal.
But they'll fight for it at least.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, they definitely will.
So the investment focus, does it fit? I think it does. It's that because it mentioned that they like doing Series A,
Yeah.
and this would be under that. It's kind of like the level of risk they want, and then also is like it's that the same amount of equity percentage, the 30% range. So I think it does.
Yeah.
And then I think it mentioned too that they worked with other companies, including one beverage company in the past.
I think so.
Someone did at least. I don't remember who. That.
Yeah, I think it. Let's see. Yeah, so Ed Rodriguez had experience in some beverage companies.
And who was that?
He's one of the DPV partners.
Okay.
So yeah, he would
So
probably
that's
be the one serving on the board if that all went through.
uh-huh.
So, and then I think it's kind of turning around, and so now we're on the MuMate side of things. What kind of things do we need to consider? What are our focus? What kind of deal terms are we looking for if we're trying to get this funding?
So you want to maintain control.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want as much equity as you can get. You want a higher valuation.
Yeah, you
And-
probably don't want to give like 30% to VC. I mean, DVP or
If they can swing less, then I mean, again, that's where all these negotiations come in. Because if they already have an offer from Astoria Partners for 10 million, so 10 million post valuation, VC gets 25% equity. So that's a pretty high valuation with you get to retain a lot of equity. The only downside there is that it looks like they're kind of trying to gain too much control. Like it says, so we're on the board, it says they want to hire a new CEO.
Uh-huh.
And also the other key provisions, it says they would only get 1.25 million initially, and then after they reach 10 million in revenue and positive EBIT, then they get the other 1.25 million. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of control, yeah, I think they want to make sure they get as much control as possible because they've already mentioned like if there's have concerns with these VCs trying to come in and change how they run the company and make them do different things than what they want. All right, so pre-money value, what's the goal for pre-money value?
I think they would want it as much as they can. And then that way whatever how much money do they say they need? 2.5 million?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if their pre-money is like 15 million and then adding another 2.5, they're giving way less equity.
Yeah. It might be tough trying to find somebody that can
Would agree with that.
work with those terms, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Board composition. Who do they want on the board, and how many on the board?
Well, they should probably have both founders on there for the MuMate side.
Uh-huh.
And then they hired some other guy who I forget what his role was, but he had another responsibility, perhaps have him, but maybe on a lesser value, or a lesser role.
And then for this too, I mean, usually when we talk about having someone come in and be on the board, like as founders, that's something you don't want because you don't want to give up control or you don't want this newcomer. But I think it's important to remember that the VC and you have the same end goal. It should be to make money.
Right.
So the VC, I mean, they're not going to hire some idiot to do that because I mean they have skin in the game. So I think from a founder's point of view is you should like accept that and be like, well, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. And I think part of the deal for me is like knowing who would be on the board, because if it's some Joe Schmo that just, I mean, I would be definitely a red flag for me. But if they're valuable and they really going to help the company grow, even if it's not the way that we would have done it or the founders, then I think it's good.
Correct.
Yeah. So something interesting here. It says that Prosper had room on the board for Taylor. So Maxwell is kind of the CEO, so she's on the board for sure. But Prosper made room for Taylor on the board, but Astoria excluded Taylor. So, like, Astoria has a higher valuation, but Taylor wouldn't be on the board, which is like she's one of the co-founders, which is kind of weird. So do you take higher valuation and less control? That's kind of a tough one.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I wish that they should definitely take more control of their company because
a lot of these guys are sharks. Like they're in it to.
Yeah,
or see, they get a guy in there and they just take over, and you can't really do anything because it's all legally contracted.
Yeah, that's where it's tough. And like these VCs come in and they know all the business side of things, and they know how to make a business run well. Where like a lot of these startup companies, they're not business people. They're just like, look, I just had an idea and it worked. So
yeah.
But I do think that having control, like if you're a founder of a company, like you should be on the board and you should be making and calling the shots.
Yeah, I agree.
Correct.
All right. So next thing, option pool. I don't know much.
I mean, you would want an option pool because then you would have equity to hand out to people as like incentives to employees.
Yeah.
And then you could also disperse it to the founders or kind of give people equity that you're winning, which is kind of nice.
Right.
And then also too, if you have an options pool, that's just less equity that the venture capital the firm's getting.
Right. So yeah, I would opt for an option pool. All right. So last question, how do differing priorities affect this type of negotiation? Who has the upper hand, DuPage or MuMate?
I'm not sure. Well. I mean, MuMate has different choice options because if they don't decide to do venture capitalism, they can go for what were the other options?
I think that's key right there. Is, like you said, I mean, they have other options. So I think if there was only one offer, there's not a lot of leverage there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because if they want to, they can go through angel investing or other means, which would not be as fast, but that is there.
So that's kind of the next question. What are the pros and cons of seeking capital from angels rather than these VCs?
Well, I mean, you may not surrender as much equity going another route, but you won't have the speed to be able to get it done as fast.
I think I mentioned that it would be nice to like, if you get angel investors, usually they're like emotionally invested in the company. Like they care about the brand and they care about the product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also too, a lot of angels are they usually they're just guys with money, so they're not as concerned about the numbers and about like the big picture of it or like the potential they see or just their gut. And as a VC, I mean, if the numbers don't add up, they're not doing it.
Yeah.
And isn't like that when the with the angel investor, you don't have to like have them in the board, right?
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
much like they're just gonna fund your company. They don't really care to have any control. They're just like, look, I like your company. Here's $1 million.
And they just want a return.
Yeah. Sweet. All right, let's see what's next.
It says, how did the VC go about valuing MuMate? So I mean,
Sure.
we've talked about this before, but the revenue multiplier that we used, it was pretty. I mean, it was kind of close. We got 11 million.
Yeah.
Just a little high, but I think. What was the exit value they were expecting? That's what I was trying to find earlier, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I don't. For some reason, I feel like we're missing information.
Right?
Like, I didn't hear any. Didn't read anything about like exit values or anything like that.
Correct.
So maybe I know it did talk about the typical investment return for this VC. So we can just kind of go off that maybe. I don't remember where it was. Oh, it says the average 25% pre-tax IRR.
Yeah. So if they, let's see, if they
So if they give them a 25. So the investment they needed was 2.5 million, and then 25% growth on that. Well, it would be more than 25 because that's pre-tax.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they'd be able to meet their rate of return, like their investment goals in terms of growth. Because I mean, after just 3 years, they're going from 8 million to 50 million, which is a huge growth. That's more than 25%. Yeah, we're totally missing stuff here. Because like the bottom question on number 7, it says, what other means did the VC use to value the company? Share your spreadsheets and talk us through them. No, we never got a spreadsheet.
Was there like a different thing we're supposed to study with this? Like, I don't even get it. Like, what's going on?
I was kind of messing with their spreadsheet, but that was only just with the numbers I was pulling out of the case.
Right.
It's not
kind of sounds like we were supposed to get a spreadsheet like.
Let me see if I can find it.
Is there one in the announcements by any chance?
Yeah, there's no announcements that have any spreadsheets or anything like that. Nothing there. I don't know.
Okay.
We just do our best, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not. Actually, I was kind of confused. I saw that this week there's only one case, so I kind of had it built up in my head like, oh wow, this is going to be a hard case because there's only one. But I read it and I was like, well, I'm not. This is just like a normal week. I don't know why there's one case.
Right.
And it's kind of the same way, I think, for week 12 and 13, which is perfect for me because that's when I'm getting married and going on a trip.
Hey, that's the tender mercies.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then there's another couple weeks, I think, where they have one case, but there's some more homework along with those. You know, it's just this week was where it seemed like the assignments were cut in half, which is great. I mean, no complaints, but.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess the spreadsheets, I guess we can just assume it's our own. So, I mean, just according to the last page, it says what means did they use to give valuations. And then the very, very last part of the case, it talks about other companies, but it's basically a sales multiplier and then an EBIT multiplier, which is pretty normal. I mean, that's in any valuation. They're just going to find a right multiplier, and it's one of those is normally it. And then they would just use whatever the industry average is, kind of go off that.
Yeah.
But and also too on this, kind of reading it, the ones with higher multipliers were like specialty drinks, because the other ones were more snacks, but the specialty drinks ones were higher.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for them.
I just feel like they have a lot of room to expand. Like they're only they seem like a pretty small operation so far, but they have so much potential and so much demand that once they get this funding and they start going national, then like they could easily get up to these $100,000 in revenue companies.
Oh yeah.
And their value is going to be a lot higher. I mean, let's see. There's another company that was a company that was 109 million in revenue. Their value was 220. So that's, I mean, if they get to that point in, let's say, like 5 or 6 years, and if they're valued at like 10 million now, that's a pretty big
like,
jump.
That's 10 times growth.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So I mean,
it's kind of cool too. I didn't know this, but Naked Juice was acquired by Pepsi, and then Odwalla, which is like the other health juice, was Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So they're competing. They got $182 million for that. Holy cow!
Seriously, we're in the wrong business, guys.
Oh, juice.
New energy drink or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is it just me? But it seems like if you go to any gas station, I mean, there are so many drink options now that it's crazy.
Crazy.
And
yeah,
so,
interesting.
Although it did say in the case study that the great majority of the new, like I think there's like 4,000 drinks that come out every year or something like that. Is that what it said? Like,
no, they don't last for long.
400. No, is it 400 or 4,000?
400.
I think it was companies.
Oh, company. Okay.
But yeah, it was basically saying that there's a low survival rate.
Yeah.
For drinks, yeah.
So I mean, people know what they like, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, so a couple more questions. Just talking about, so what have you learned about bargaining tactics? Should MuMate disclose that they have other offers?
I think they should.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely, because it'll make them compete.
Yeah,
you could also use it like you could keep it quiet, and then based on what they give you, and you can compare it silently to the others, and then you can see if they're trying to shark you or not.
Right.
So there's pros and cons. I think it's in there. I think they should disclose it. It's like, hey, we have these offers, by the way. So bring your best offer.
Yeah, can you match that with a little bit of sparkle and something special?
Yeah. Are we at number 8?
Yeah.
Just because
it says, do hardball tactics make sense in a negotiation like this? I think they can, but when I think of hardball, I think of like contentious negotiations. But
I don't think anybody's like needs this so badly that it needs to get to that point. I don't think it would.
Correct.
I also think that's necessary.
You just think it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. So key takeaways: terms allocate economic and control rights. So yeah, I mean, you're either giving away money or control or equity.
Right.
Correct.
Second takeaway: conflicting priorities of investors and entrepreneurs.
Well, it's a big battle for control.
Yeah, I mean, investors, they just want a return, and then entrepreneurs, a lot of times they have a vision, and sometimes it could conflict.
Well, I know a lot of times, like the money isn't really what the entrepreneur is looking for. They're just looking for success, but they need the investor to get the success. So then it's like, well, how do we meet in the middle somewhere?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think that's why control isn't so important. It's super important because if you're the entrepreneur and yeah, you get the money, but now your company is run by a bunch of VCs and investors, like you just kind of lost your company.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
The third takeaway: terms have a price. So I mean, yeah, I mean, money speaks. So if you have something, money is where used to kind of trade terms, I guess.
Yeah.
Or you can just trade terms for different terms, and money's involved. And then the last one would be valuation techniques for venture capital. It would just be the multipliers.
Yeah.
And I think a way to maybe use a higher multiplier would be like the current demand. What's the growth been? What's the brand like awareness already? I think that would make the valuation a lot higher.
I think they're like pretty established as a brand because there's like so much demand for their product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that helps them for sure.
Was it the now was it MuMate itself that had the idea that they could get up to 50 million in revenue, or was that the VCs telling them that?
I think it's the company forecasting that, like, their projection of that year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was just more stress being piled on to what they're already trying to do, but I saw that it mentioned that in there, so I was just trying to remember. Was it VCs just trying to blow smoke up, on them, or was there more? Was that something that they came up with?
Yeah. I feel like VCs tend to be pessimistic in their future projections because they're just like, oh, like I think that's a little aggressive. Your company is not going to be worth that much, so like we're going to evaluate it this right now. And like on the inside, they're like, yeah, it's going to be really good.
Whereas the company itself is like, hey, we give us your money. We're gonna make sure that it's worth your while. That sort of
right.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
Cool. I think we got some pretty good information out of that, even though I think we're shorthanded on some information.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Perfect. All right, let me stop the broadcast.